All right, today we are opening up a really fascinating dossier on the unseen. But look, this isn't about folklore or scary campfire stories. We're going to explore the jinn as a distinct species, a civilization that shares our world. The goal here is to replace superstition with knowledge. So let's get into it. No matter where you look in the world, every single culture has these stories of beings that live just on the edge of our perception. You've got trolls in Scandinavia, the yokai in Japan, spirits all throughout the Americas. So are these all just separate, disconnected myths? Things our ancestors just made up? Well, here's a thought. This analysis puts forward a really compelling idea. What if these aren't different things at all? What if all this global data actually points to one thing? A shared worldwide encounter with a single non-human species, just seen and interpreted through the unique lens of each local culture. Now, before we can even begin to explore an idea that big, we have to get our definitions straight. We need to move past the spooky stories. And the very first step is to understand what the word jinn actually means in the first place. So let's go right to the source of the word. Jinn comes from this Arabic root J-N-N, and all that means is to conceal or to hide. Think about it. This same root gives us words like janeen, for an embryo hidden away in the womb, and Jannah, which means a garden that's concealed by its dense foliage and walls. So the name itself doesn't mean evil or monster. It just means the hidden one.
Okay, so if they're defined by being hidden, what are they made of that makes them so hard to see? Let's take a look at what this dossier says about their actual, fundamental composition.
And this slide really gets to the core of it. You see us, humans, on one side. We're described as being made from clay, or matter. We have a solid, physical, three-dimensional body. The jinn, on the other hand, they're described as being from smokeless fire. You can think of it like a type of plasma or pure energy. They exist on a completely different spectrum, kind of like Wi-Fi signals or radio waves that are all around us right now, but totally invisible to our eyes. This energy theory is absolutely crucial to understanding everything else. In their natural state, they are basically amorphous, formless energy. This is what would allow them to do all the things we hear about in stories, pass through walls, stay invisible, and travel at incredible speeds. They're not bodies as we know them. They're more like waves of energy sharing our space. But don't go thinking they're just mindless blobs of energy zipping around. According to this analysis, they have an incredibly complex and structured society that, in a lot of ways, is a mirror image of our own. Just look at the breakdown of their society. First off, they're not immortal spirits. They have life cycles. They're born, they grow old, and they die, just like us. They get married, they have kids. Their population is even said to be bigger than ours. They eat and drink, and maybe the most surprising part, they have free will, which means they choose to adopt human religions. There are Muslim jinn, Christian jinn, Jewish jinn, and so on. And this quote from the Quran, which is actually spoken from the perspective of the jinn themselves, just sums it up perfectly. Just like humanity, they are not one single thing. They exist all across a moral spectrum. There are good ones, there are bad ones, and there's a whole lot of gray in between. So if we take this framework, this idea of an unseen, energy-based civilization living alongside us, how does that help us understand some of the world's most persistent paranormal mysteries? Let's start with a big one, shape-shifting. The analysis actually calls them the original shapeshifters, and it explains it with this really cool concept called the fear mask. So since they're naturally formless, when they interact with a person, they don't have a default shape to show. Instead, they can project a form based on what's inside the viewer's own head. They tap into your cultural memories, your deepest fears, and basically wear it like a costume designed specifically to terrify you. That demon, that troll, that serpent, it's a projection, not their real self. Okay, how about ghosts? In many, many belief systems, it's a hard and fast rule that once a human soul passes on, it can't come back and interact with our world. So what are people actually seeing? What's going on in all these hauntings? This slide breaks down what the dossier calls the ghost fallacy. The idea is there's a spiritual barrier that human souls can't cross back over. But the jinn, they've been living alongside us this whole time, observing us almost like through a one-way mirror. So a jinn that watched a person for their entire life would know all their secrets, their habits, the sound of their voice. The theory goes it's they, not the human soul, who are mimicking the dead. It's an impersonation, which provides a whole other explanation for ghosts. And that brings us to the big one, aliens. From the theological view in this analysis, it suggests that a creator who is always creating probably didn't stop with just us. So it presents two really interesting possibilities for things like UFO sightings. One, maybe these are just jinn manifesting in technological forms that we simply don't recognize. Or two, maybe there's something else entirely, completely different creations scattered all across the universe.
Now, this brings us to a really, really crucial point: the relationship between humans and jinn. I mean, given everything we've talked about, their speed, their strength, invisibility, you'd probably assume they're superior, right? Well, this framework argues for a totally different hierarchy. This slide just lays it out perfectly. It's like a cosmic scale. On one side, you've got the jinn with all their amazing physical powers. But on the other side, humans have been given superior intellect, what's called akal, and a higher spiritual rank here on Earth. And the key takeaway is that wisdom and intellect are designed to be more powerful than brute physical force.
And this leads to a pretty fascinating psychological profile. This analysis suggests that their number one weapon, fear, isn't a sign of strength, but of weakness. It actually comes from a deep-seated inferiority complex. They use intimidation to try and assert power over a creation, us, that they know is, in fact, intellectually and spiritually superior to them. So, if knowledge is the real key to taking away their power, what are the practical steps? This last section is all about defensive protocols, turning these big ideas into things you can actually do. First up, prevention. The dossier talks about these simple, everyday actions that create what you could call a metaphysical firewall. Things like just mentioning God's name when you shut a door or walk into your house, covering up your food and water at night, and keeping young kids inside right around sunset, which is apparently a peak time for jinn activity. Okay, but what if you're past prevention and you need a remedy? Well, the ultimate weapon described is reciting specific verses from the Quran, which are said to be literally unbearable for them to be around. The public call to prayer is also a powerful deterrent. And there's even a psychological tactic. Don't curse at them. That apparently just feeds their pride. Instead, simply saying Bismillah, in the name of God, is said to diminish them and their power. And that really brings us to the core takeaway of this entire dossier. It completely reframes the entire relationship. Fear is what gives them power. But the moment you understand them for what they really are, physical, energy-based beings that have rules and limitations, and the moment you realize your own superior standing, well, you completely dismantle their greatest weapon. And that leaves us with a final question. Can knowledge truly be the ultimate shield against the things we cannot see?